Hi, this is Jamie Martinet, Senior Director, Music Insights and Industry Relations at Luminate. You're listening to the Your Morning Coffee podcast with my friends Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart. Weekly music news for the new music business.
From Spotify Wrapped is here.
From the New York Times, TikTok faces U.S. ban after losing bid to overturn new law.
And from Hearing Things, artists make $8 in profit from a $100 concert ticket.
Ouch.
Well, Jay, we will be talking a fair bit about that. We are here at episode 226, and we are glad you're here. So let's get the show going right about now.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand!
Your morning coffee is on the air. 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 On the air.
Standing by.
Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
So good to see you, my friend Jay.
Good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm enjoying this warm and balmy weather here in Southern California for December. Every now and again, you get one of those little treats if you live in Southern California where it's like 80 degrees when the rest of the country is not doing so warmly. And today is one of those days.
Yeah, it is absolutely beautiful out. I can't wait to get out and enjoy the day. I started this day with a couple-hour guest lecture with our friends over at Cal State Northridge. I got to get you over there to meet with these guys, but it was Stacy and Dave and the whole team over there. Those students, man, they just, each time it gets better and better. They come up with so many great questions and they're so curious and so smart. But that was a really fun time with Cal State Northridge this morning.
And of course, Cal State Northridge has a fantastic radio station that we are both fans of, KCSN, which you can get all across the kind of greater LA area and up here in our county as well. And a lot of great music they pump out on that radio station. And that's a great school.
Yeah, it sure is. It was such a crazy, busy week this week for both of us. We recorded a special episode, which will drop next week, with our friend Will Page. And if you don't know Will, you should, but we cover his writings here pretty regularly. And he's an author. He's an economist. He used to be Spotify's chief economist. He has one of our favorite podcasts called Bubble Trouble, which is so good. But he wrote this article you and I covered last week, and the headline was "Music Smashes Box Office Records. Global value of music copyright soars to $45.5 billion, now worth more than cinema." And you and I, we always love meeting with him, but we had such a great conversation. And he's one of those big brainiacs that sort of breaks us all down for us so we understand how these things are trending. It was really interesting.
It's like going to school, it's like talking to that economics professor in college. And you're right, he is super bright, but he makes things easily understandable.
Yeah.
And, there is no stone, I should say, unturned when he is going and digging and doing these writings. It's just really interesting stuff. And it's fascinating to see again how much money music is bringing in over the last, as how much it's increased over the last decade. And he is a big promoter of the notion that, listen, people need to know exactly how much money is coming in and kind of shout it from the mountaintops, because people still think that these other businesses might be bigger, and yet music continues to grow.
It continues to
cool
grow.
stuff.
It's such a great piece, and check it out. The graphics and everything are amazing. But at his core, besides being just a good guy, he's a music fanatic, a music freak, and he'll go there with you. We had dinner at South by Southwest, and with Fred Goldring and Bill Hine and Andy Zicklin and some folks, and we just geeked out over music, and hilarity ensued.
There you go. Well, Jay, you also had a busy week because you got to interview Gene Simmons for your other podcast, Behind the Set List. And you had one of your friends and a person that I am a huge fan of, Skunk Baxter, on the Rick Beato channel on YouTube for an amazingly interesting interview.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Rick Beato is, I would speak for Mike, is one of our favorite YouTube subscriptions. We just love those episodes. They're always fascinating, and I always learn something. It's Rick Beato, Beato. And yeah, I was very fortunate that one of my colleagues, friends, clients, Jeff Skunk Baxter, you may know him from Steely Dan, Doobie Brothers. I helped sort of make that happen, which was, thank you, Mr. Paris, for helping with that as well. And yeah, the Gene Simmons Behind the Set List, we recorded this a couple days ago, Glenn Peoples and myself. And it was one of the most fascinating interviews we've ever had. Gene
which is saying something.
It is. We've talked to a lot of folks. He's very intelligent, very experienced, speaks 5 languages, has opinions on things you may or may not agree with, but it's very thoughtful and very respectful. And we just had an amazing conversation. His mom was a Holocaust survivor, and that really affected Gene. They moved over from Israel to the United States when he was like 8 years old. And he lives by the adage that every day above ground is a good day. Mm-hmm. And he's probably one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And he doesn't want to take vacations. He loves what he does, and he just works hard, and he's curious. So anyway, check out Gene Simmons Behind the Set List. That'll drop this week.
Indeed. I'm looking forward to hearing that, and get back to my Kiss roots because we were a big fan in the day, for sure.
That's right. Another thing that I attended, a couple of things this week. Luminate did a live virtual training because they have this new user interface on Luminate that used to be MRC, used to be SoundScan. It's sort of the main point of reference for the music industry for sales, streams, downloads, that sort of thing. And Haley Jones is their head of independence. I dig her. I dig what they're doing over there. They had this really cool live virtual training, and I participated in that and learned a lot. And then I also attended Midia's 2025 predictions, that webinar. They say it's a social stage now. It was super interesting. And you and I have had Mark Mulligan and Tatiana Cirasano and some of the other team members on our podcast. So, special shout out to them, Carol Severin, Ben Woods, Rutger Rosenborg, Reese Elliott, Olivia Jones. They did this amazing presentation on their predictions. And their predictions are unlike some of the predictions. They're not like mine. Like mine, it's rubber glove and flashlight. I'm just like guessing and wishing, right? Theirs, they have a like 80-90% accuracy rating on theirs. It covers the creator economy, podcasts, generative AI, and a lot more. And I thought you and I could sort of walk through one of the slides that this is music predictions, and I'll let you sort of kick it off. This is a slide from Midia's presentation.
Okay, and I can't unhear the rubber glove and flashlight comment, Jay, just so you're saying. But here's some of their predictions. The first is the rise of non-DSP artists. Ever more creators will shift time and energy to social platforms, not just to match their fans, but to release their music and build careers.
Right. The other one of these 4 is segmentation. In search of growth, they believe that the music streaming market will increasingly focus on segmentation, including superfan and limited tiers.
Right. How about rise of the atomized label? Interesting phrase, atomized. With a growing array of label service vendors, a new class of labels will be able to build unique visions of what a music company should be without millions of investor capital.
Right. And then the last one of these four, and you really need to go to their website and see, purchase this report because there's a lot more to it. But on this particular slide that we're talking about, the last one is decoupling of culture and remuneration. There's that word again. While Western countries will remain the centers of recorded music revenue, the global South will grow its impact on music consumption and culture.
Yes, and we talked about that with Will Page yesterday when we were
Yes.
chatting him up for sure. You can visit mediaresearch.com, by the way, for the report. Very well worth your time.
Right. And speaking of well worth your time, I watched the Yacht Rock documentary, and it's DOCK documentary. Get it? It was surprisingly delicious. It was absolutely amazing. I'm going to play you their trailer because this really tees it up. So this is the Yacht Rock, a documentary trailer.
You don't know me, but I'm your brother.
It rocks, but it doesn't rock too hard. The singers all seem to be saying, hey, it's gonna be okay.
It's perfect sitting down dancing music.
Also known as yacht rock.
LA in the 1970s.
It was an amazing time. There's these really talented session guys who can play anything.
Steely Dan.
The Doobie Brothers.
Toto.
Kenny Loggins.
Christopher Cross. Michael fucking McDonald.
You have these sensational white musicians who had been acculturated on black music styles.
You write what you hear, what you feel.
A lot of the black stations picked up my first album. They made it a hit. It caused a buzz that we weren't used to getting.
Just seemed to really connect with the audience.
These artists provided the soundtrack of our lives, and then suddenly all that changed.
The video killed the radio star thing. It was just absolutely true in my case.
Top 40 careers have a natural end. They always do and always will.
I expected to be totally forgotten by the end of the 80s.
That's what a fool believes, Kenny. That's what a fool believes.
The term yacht rock emerged from a comedy show.
All of a sudden, this new genre we made up started to get embraced by the world.
Yacht rock! Yacht rock. Okay, where's my fucking yacht? I played on all those records.
I always thought it was kind of flattering to be made fun of.
I began to see that it was a kind of ass-backwards way to honor us.
Obviously, it made an impression on somebody.
Interesting. And by the way, Questlove has said, yacht rock is associated with white groups and white songwriters and producers, but I know more black yacht rock than I do traditional yacht rock. He says, pointing to Al Jarreau, the Pointer Sisters' Slow Hand, and George Benson's Turn Your Love Around. He said that music doesn't get much play in the typical yacht rock conversation, though, or in a documentary.
Right. Before we get into the stories, there were a couple of announcements this week. The MLC, one of our sponsors, the MLC announced that over 100 distributor partners across 20 countries have joined their portal to locate, easy for you to say, unclaimed royalties. This is super important.
Yes.
So I spoke with their head of third-party partnerships, Dae Bogen, this week about this unclaimed royalties and this portal that we're talking about, if I can spit the word out. Let's listen into what Dae had to say about this. Dae Bogen, thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. One is the MLC recently announced that over 100 distributor partners across 20 countries have joined its portal for independent distributors, and that's sort of to locate unclaimed royalties. This portal, it's called I guess it's called DIRP, which is Distributor Unmatched Recordings Portal. Am I getting that right? Tell us about that.
Yes, I created that name because I love the acronym DERP. It's funny. So yeah, so as you mentioned, the DERP is a portal that enables music distributors to see the releases that they've released in the United States that the MLC has been unable to match and pay out mechanical royalties on. And this is important to the MLC for many reasons. Well, first of all, I built the DERP. I conceptualized it. It comes from a sort of my career in the music industry as an advocate for independent music creators, as a technologist who built a series of tech startups in the music industry for rights administration for self-published songwriters, for royalty forensics and unclaimed royalty search. So I've been in this space for many years prior to joining the MLC. And in 2019, I was actually invited to the Copyright Office invited me to the DC, to the Library of Congress, to speak at a symposium that the Copyright Office was putting on to kick off their unclaimed royalty research. And at that symposium, I sort of gave my recommendations on how the MLC that was coming in 2020 would go about doing outreach to DIY artists and small rights holders. So fast forward to 2020, I joined the MLC, became the head of third-party partnerships, and began the process of building the DERP. So the DERP is a first of its kind portal, and it allows independent distributors to see their releases and then to go back to their customers, who are often artists who own their own publishing, and to notify them that the MLC potentially has unclaimed royalties for their releases, and then to essentially send those artists over to us to start the process of determining if they're eligible to become a member and to receive these royalties. And we've been able to pay out thousands of dollars to individual songwriters who never knew that they had royalties or even that they had rights.
Wow, fantastic. So what steps should creators take to register their songs with the MLC, and talk about that process a little bit?
So it's pretty straightforward. A songwriter who is their own publisher, right? So they don't have a publishing deal with anyone or a publishing administrator. They may be eligible to join the MLC as a direct member. And it's free to join the MLC. They can go to our website and click the Connect to Collect button. And it's free membership. After they've joined, they can use our portal, the MLC portal, to register their songs. And they want to make sure they register their shares for every song that they represent, which could be their entire catalog. After they've registered their songs inside the portal, we have a thing called a matching tool. And the matching tool allows them to see versions of their recordings that have been distributed in the US that we've been able to match thus far. And then they're able to recommend these matches to their songs to sort of unlock those royalties that have not been claimed. So we have lots of independent artists and songwriters doing this on a daily basis. And it's very empowering for them because they get paid directly from the MLC. We pay out on a monthly basis. We pay out 100% of the royalties that we are able to collect and allocate to that or identify for that rights holder. And we do direct deposits. So if you're an artist that's getting significant streams in the United States, that could be significant monthly income that helps with recording sessions and merch or going on tour or anything. So it's been a really nice income stream for a lot of artists.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dae, where can our listeners go to learn more about the MLC and all the work you're doing to support songwriters and publishers?
One, our main website, the MLC.com, but also we have a ton of information on our YouTube channel. So if you go to our YouTube channel, we have lots of explainer videos, we have webinars, we have industry videos, we have just sort of music industry knowledge videos. So we have a ton of videos on our YouTube channel. We have lots of subscribers and people who come and comment on the videos. So that's just kind of one way to learn about the MLC, but also about the music industry in general. And then also we use our social media, such as Instagram, to sometimes do Instagram specific content, as well as to highlight some of the songwriters who've joined the MLC and they sort of tell their own stories. So it's a really we have those kind of two places to go to, social media and MLC.com.
Congratulations on the DERP, and keep up all the great work, Dae. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for about that.
Oh, that is really interesting. And man, God bless them for doing that. That is so important. So important. This week also, there's a Bandcamp announcement. Bandcamp, the world's largest record store and go-to platform for music enthusiasts and independent artists alike, unveils its 2024 end-of-year celebration featuring 3 cornerstone events. Bandcamp's Best of 2024, spotlighting the freshest voices and most compelling music of the year. The 2024 Bandcamp Holiday Guide, a detailed chart of the year's top-selling items, and a curated collection of music and merchandise celebrating fan support for artists.
Right, and the iconic Bandcamp Friday that we talk about, where Bandcamp waives its revenue share so every purchase goes directly to the artists and their label. It's a movement, a celebration, and a moment to celebrate and reflect on the creative energy that's shaping the future of independent music. Also, finally, the final round for voting for the 2025 Grammys opens December 12th. If you're a voting member like I am, it's official. You made it through the first round of voting to help determine, what the 2025 nominees are going to be. But your participation, it makes a huge impact. It shapes one of the most representative groups of nominees yet.
Yes, exactly. As a voting member of the most diverse and representative voting electorate in Grammy history, it's your choice that's crucial in maintaining the integrity of the Grammy Awards. With final round voting approaching December 12th, your final vote has the power to shape music history.
Yeah, it really does. And I always tell my friends that are voting members, it's such a privilege to be able to do this. Make sure you take the time to vote. And before we jump into the stories, you and I, it's so funny. We were just talking with Will Page about Chris Dalla-Riva and this thing that they wrote together, which was so good, that glocalization piece. And I just noticed on Music X this morning, as a matter of fact, that Chris Dalla-Riva had this really cool piece about influential rock bands. And you should go on to Music X and look for that piece about influential rock bands. But I wanted to grab the top 10 because it was sort of surprising in some ways and predictable in others. I'll kick it off. Here are the first 5 of the most influential rock bands in history, according to Wikipedia linked data. Okay, so number 1, the Beatles. Number 2, Led Zeppelin. Number 3, the Rolling Stones. Number 4, U2, sort of a newer one. And number 5, David Bowie.
Yeah, so Bob Dylan is number 6, Elton John number 7, Queen number 8, Jimi Hendrix is tied with the Red Hot Chili Peppers at 112 Wikipedia influence points for place number 9, and the Chili Peppers.
That surprised me a little bit.
Totally, it completely surprised me. But hey, what are you going to do? It's very surprising. But Jay, let's say, what do you say? We thank our sponsors, my goodness, because we are so lucky to have the folks that really help us put the show on. We could not do without them.
We have some of the best sponsors, and these are all products that we use every single day. Let's kick it off with a special thank you to the Mechanical Licensing Collective. That's the MLC. They're a nonprofit organization, and they're making a big difference for songwriters, music publishers, and other rights holders. And they're really transforming how these artists receive mechanical streaming royalties from services like Spotify and Apple Music in the United States. Every month, the MLC collects the streaming data and royalties from those platforms, matches the money to the creator who has earned it, and then pays them or their publishers or admin the royalties that they're due. And to date, the MLC has already distributed over $2.5 million in total royalties and has nearly 50,000 members worldwide. So if you're a songwriter, composer, lyricist, with music streaming or a publisher or admin, you need to become a member of the MLC, and that'll make sure that you're not leaving any money on the table. Best of all, membership is completely free, and the MLC pays out 100% of the royalties it takes in. Visit themlc.com to learn more.
Absolutely. We are also sponsored by Soundtrack, music for business. The good news is that 33% of consumers discover new music they hear played in businesses such as restaurants, retail establishments, bars, hotels, etc. The bad news is that over 70% of U.S. small and mid-sized businesses are misusing music, resulting in a loss to music creators, rights holders, and the music industry to the tune of over $1.3 billion per year in the U.S. alone. Soundtrack Soundtrack is the leading music streaming service for business, providing music to more than 80,000 businesses globally. To learn more, you can visit soundtrack.app/artist-guide.
Wow, that's such a great service.
Indeed,
love what they're doing
indeed.
over there.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, let's jump into the stories, Jay. The first one, it's our first story. Number one, Spotify Wrapped is here. 2024 Wrapped for Artists alongside Spotify Wrapped for Fans. Spotify for Artists again launched its 2024 Wrapped for Artists, providing artists with more ways to connect with their top fans. This year, Wrapped for Artists returns with even more impact, featuring personalized data stories and visuals that reflect how artists engage with their fans this year. All eligible artists receive their own microsite experience that dives into all the ways their fans listen this year. Some of the year's highlights include the following.
Well, let's jump into what they have. First off, share cards are back. It wouldn't be Wrapped without these popular stories like total listeners, top fans, top tracks. It makes it really easy for artists to share the moments they cared the most about from 2024. Artists will be receiving a share card for every single one of their data stories. They'll be available in 37 languages, allowing artists to connect with their audiences worldwide. And I played with this a little bit. And what's great about these share cards is you may not want to share your entire Wrapped with everybody, but there may be some data points on there. There may be some areas that you want to brag about that you can share, and they make these share cards super easy.
And you had some data that you were very interested in about yourself.
I found out that I am in the top 0.1% of Taylor Swift listeners. And I even got a special message from Taylor Swift that is sent out to those top fans. And no apologies. By the way, this Wrapped, we look forward to this every single year. We love it so much. Apple has their replay. Amazon has, sort of their Wrapped counterpart, YouTube. So now it's part of our culture and part of all these platforms. But the OG is Spotify. And man, it was so much fun. I'll just tell you really quickly. I was honored to be able to get a sneak preview of Wrapped this year. Spotify allowed me to see it a little bit early and to be a part of a presentation about it this last week. And they're doing more things. And I know you're going to talk about a couple of those.
Yeah, indeed. Another highlight is new data stories. They're introducing 2 brand new stories in the addition of an artist's top 3 performing clips and the new release story, which highlights the artist's biggest release week based on week 1 streams. Countdown pages for the first time artists with a new release story can relive the excitement of their biggest release week, and they'll even see the number of pre-saves they drove if they had a countdown page.
That's right. And they also added Songwriter Wrapped in addition to Wrapped for Artists. Wrapped for Songwriters is back for all songwriters with a songwriter page, complete with an interactive microsite, that share card generator that we talked about, so you can share just certain parts of the Wrapped, and a dedicated social campaign. Let's look at the personalized user experience. They say that this is a celebration of your year on Spotify. So they talk about music evolution, your tastes, your moods, they change throughout the year. And so does the music that you listen to. This new data story that they have reveals the musical phases that uniquely define you. Users will receive up to 3 musical phases, which will be displayed with descriptors, genres, and artists.
Yeah, exactly. So they also have the Your Music Evolution playlist. Your Music Evolution will also come to life in a personalized playlist that can be found in the Wrapped feed on Home. Tracks within the playlist include both familiar favorites along with new songs they think you'll love related to your music phases throughout the year.
Yeah, and then you've got your top artist reimagined. So fans will get to see the artists that they enjoyed the most this year with the quote-unquote longest listening streak. I saw mine and it was absolutely hilarious. Plus the fan favorite top listeners that reveals the percentage of listeners you're in for your favorite artist. And that was that Taylor Swift thing that I talked about, the 0.01% or whatever it was.
Indeed. So there's also something called Uncover More Listening Insights. The share functionality for music and podcasts on Spotify has been given a wrapped spin, as they say. By tapping share, Spotify will reveal if the content you're streaming stacks up in your top 100 songs, top 20 artists, or top 5 podcasts.
Right. They also have Your Artist Clips. So loyal fans will get to hear directly from some top artists within the Wrapped experience. Clips will include artists like Peso Pluma, Rosé, Billie Eilish, Usher, Sabrina Carpenter, Karol G, and thousands more, including Taylor Swift, which is what I got.
And also Your Podcast Clips. You'll also be able to enjoy short messages from some of your favorite podcast creators, including creators behind shows like Anything Goes with Emma Chamberlain, Crime Junkie, Distractable, Diary of a CEO with Steve Bartlett, and many, many more.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to see what some of these top podcasts are. You know, Joe Rogan's a beast and, some of these other obvious ones, but there were some surprises in there. And speaking of surprises, they list, some of these top global lists and they list top United States lists. I just want to go through a couple of these that are global. So the first one is most streamed artist globally. Right. And here are the, top 10. Taylor Swift is number 1. The Weeknd, Bad Bunny, Drake, Billie Eilish, Travis Scott, Peso Pluma, Kanye West, Ariana Grande, and number 10 is Fide.
Right. So the most streamed songs globally, number 1 is Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. Number 2 is Beautiful Things by Benson Boone. 3 is Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. 4 is Got to Only by Floyd Minor, Chris MJ. Lose Control by Teddy Swims. End of Beginning by Dojo. Too Sweet by Hozier. One of the Girls with Jenny Lily Rose Depp by The Weeknd. Cruel Summer by Taylor Swift. And Die with a Smile by Bruno Mars and Lady Gaga.
Yes, sir. And finally, the most streamed albums, not songs, albums globally. Number 1, The Tortured Poets Department. Not a surprise there. Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. Number 2, Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter. That was a beast this last year. Then you've got Karol G. You've got Ariana Grande. Then another Taylor Swift, 1989 Taylor's version. You've got SOS by SZA. You've got another Taylor Swift, Lover. Right? And then number 9, Fireworks and Rollerblades by Benson Boone. And number 10, Starboy from The Weeknd. So there's so much more to this. Check out your Spotify Wrapped. In your morning coffee, there's some other ways that you can dice and slice that data. But they did such a great job. I know there were some people that were unhappy with, their Wrapped. I just have so much fun sort of seeing what I listen to and how it compares to others and what their top charts are, and their graphics are all really cool. And they also have a sense of humor about how they present it. So kudos to Spotify. I thought it was really good.
Well, and 3 of the top 10 most streamed albums globally are Taylor Swift. So let's talk. That's pretty remarkable. It's
crazy.
And there's, of course, as her tour wraps up, there's been a lot of articles in the press about the impact of that. And this is just another thing that she has just killed it with this Eras tour. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's been a beast. I watched that Eras tour concert on was it Apple TV Plus or Disney? I think it was Apple TV Plus, and it was so good. I watched it multiple times, and I'm unabashedly, a Swiftie. I don't care. I love those songs. I just think they're great. And that tour, just the production, I think it was something like 291 dates, and they finished up, it was in Vancouver, and just what a beast of a tour. We haven't seen anything like that. Stadiums all over the world. And as you mentioned before we hit record, there were parts where they would try new songs out in the middle of this thing. They would switch things up and switch dance routines and outfits. It wasn't the same show every single night across the world. And as you and I know from working with artists, it's such a beast just putting on whatever a regular show is these days. And now you've got, pyro and screens and all sorts of things. And her tour took it to another level. And just, I don't know if there'll ever be another tour like that, but kudos to Taylor and her team. What a beast.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's jump into the next story. This is from the New York Times by Sapna Maheshwari. The headline is TikTok faces U.S. ban after losing bid to overturn new law. So this law will ban TikTok in the United States by January 19th if its owner, ByteDance, doesn't either sell or divest this non-Chinese company.
Right. So TikTok is one step closer to disappearing in the U.S. after a panel of federal judges on Friday unanimously upheld a new law that could lead to the banning of the popular Chinese-owned video app by mid-January.
Yeah, this is crazy. This wasn't in your morning coffee, by the way. This broke afterwards, so we're just sort of adding this in. It goes on to say that, you know, the 3 judges in the U.S. Court of Appeals, and that's for the District of Columbia Circuit, they denied TikTok's petition to overturn the law. The decision could be a death blow for the app in one of its biggest markets. More than 170 million Americans use TikTok to entertain and inform themselves, turning it into a cultural phenomenon. We know that. The looming loss of this app in the United States has spurred concern from free speech advocates and from the creators whose income depends on TikTok.
Well, the decision also raises new questions for President-elect Donald J. Trump, who has repeatedly signaled his support for the app, but who doesn't have a clear path for rescuing it under the new law, which is scheduled to go into effect the day before his inauguration.
Right. The law was signed in April and requires TikTok's Chinese owner, ByteDance, to sell the app to a non-Chinese company by January 19th, or face a ban in the United States. TikTok, which has raised national security concerns among politicians since 2020 because of its ties to China. They say that a sale is impossible, in part because it would be blocked by the Chinese government. And the company also argued that the law unfairly singled out TikTok and that a ban would infringe on the First Amendment rights of its American users.
Well, the judges disagreed with TikTok's argument. They said that the law was carefully crafted to deal with only control by a foreign adversary and didn't run afoul of the First Amendment. The government acted solely to protect that freedom from a foreign adversary nations and to limit that adversary's ability to gather data on people in the United States, the judges wrote on Friday.
Yeah, American lawmakers and intelligence officials have said that TikTok poses a national security threat under ByteDance. They say that the Chinese government's oversight of private companies would allow it to use the app to retrieve sensitive information about Americans or to spread propaganda, though they haven't publicly shared evidence that this has occurred. They also noted that apps like Facebook and YouTube are banned in China and that the country does not allow TikTok there.
Wow. So TikTok said that it would appeal the decision to the Supreme Court, which is expected to rule differently. They said the Supreme Court has an established historical record of protecting Americans' right to free speech, and we expect they will do just that on this important constitutional issue. So said Michael Hughes, a spokesman for TikTok. In a statement, he called the ban outright censorship of the American people.
Yeah.
Well, that is really coming down, and that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Of course, we will be following it up.
Yep, late breaking news. You want to jump into a couple more of our sponsors we want to thank. We want to specifically call out Music.ai. Music.ai is a trailblazing AI music and audio platform, and they offer an expansive suite of over 50 stackable AI audio solutions. You want to change the tempo or pitch of a song, adjust instruments or vocals, mute background noise in a movie. Music.ai makes it super easy, and they're embraced by record labels, agencies, tech firms, and developers. Music.ai is synonymous with audio innovation. With over 45 million users, their tools process over 2 million minutes of audio every single day. They can process yours. Visit music.ai to get started.
Oh, yeah. Love those tools over there. Also, we are sponsored by Bandzoogle. Built by musicians for musicians, Bandzoogle is an all-in-one platform that makes it easy to build a stunning website, an online store for your music in minutes. All the features you need are already built in, including dozens of fully customizable templates, tools to sell your music and merch commission-free crowdfunding and fan subscription features, mailing list tools to grow your fan list, integrations with Bandcamp, SoundCloud, YouTube, Bands in Town, and more. so you can easily add content from your other online profiles, plus live support from their musician-friendly team 7 days a week. Website plans start at just $8.29 a month and includes hosting and your own free custom domain name. Your Morning Coffee podcast listeners can go over to bandzoogle.com to try it free for 30 days. Use the promo code MORNINGCOFFEE, that is all one word, to get 15% off the first year of any subscription. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code MORNINGCOFFEE.
Yes, sir. And Your Morning Coffee podcast is also sponsored by Hypebot. Since 2004, Hypebot has chronicled the new music industry and the trends and technologies that are changing how music is discovered, consumed, marketed, and monetized. It's edited daily by founder Bruce Houghton with help from Alana Bonilla. Hypebot and sister blog Music Think Tank are published by live music and discovery and marketing platform Bands in Town.
Indeed, Bands in Town. Over 90 million live music fans trust Bands in Town to get personalized concert alerts, recommendations, and messages from their favorite artists. It is the #1 artist service platform, connecting over 650,000 artists with their superfans. Managers, labels, agencies, and artists access their own dashboard to manage and promote their tour dates across all platforms.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love Bands in Town.
Me too.
And of course, who do I get to hang out with every week, as I have for the last 4 years, Jay?
Oh my gosh.
Through almost 230 episodes. He is the man. Jay Gilbert, music industry consultant, curator of the weekly Your Morning Coffee newsletter, and former executive with Universal Music, Sony Music, and Warner Music Groups, and a personal friend of Taylor Swift.
I get to do this podcast every week with my good friend, Mike Etchart, longtime host of Sound and Vision Radio, formerly of SST Records, Warner Music, Capitol EMI, and Universal Group. And you should hear some of the conversations we have before we hit record, where it's like, dude, did you hear that record that came out? Or did you read that book? And hey, there's this documentary coming out. By the way, I think I sent you the link. There's a Led Zeppelin documentary coming out.
Yes, there is.
And that looked really good.
I was reading about this. This has been bubbling under. I mean, I remember reading about it 2 years ago that it was coming.
Oh, really?
And
It's been in the works that long?
It's been in the works for a long time. Yeah,
Wow.
And I think it focuses just on the early couple of years. It's not a whole documentary about their entire career, but it talks about kind of the early days and how they got together. And it's Of course, we are addicted to all of these wonderful documentaries that are out there.
Oh, I can't wait.
We will be sitting in front of the TV the night it comes out.
And have you
for
heard
sure.
that story about how Led Zeppelin got their name?
Now, the story I think I heard was
I don't know if
that
it's true or not, but it's hilarious.
Well, would you tell me what you heard?
I heard that it was when it was, after the Yardbirds and after all this stuff, that they were at some event, and Keith Moon from The Who said, "Oh my God, you guys are going to bomb like a Led Zeppelin."
Yeah, I've heard a version of that story exactly, and
I don't know if it's true or not, but let's not let facts get in the way of a good story.
Not at all. Not at all.
All right. Well, let's jump into our third story. This is from Andy Cush over at Hearing Things. And the headline that grabbed my attention was, artists make $8 in profit from a $100 concert ticket. So Andy writes, a few years ago, after my band opened for a musician who was significantly bigger than we were, the venue manager showed us the total revenue for the night's show while paying us out. I'm not going to say what that figure is, but I don't remember it precisely, to be honest, but it was enough to briefly take me aback. The headliner had a loyal audience and years of acclaimed albums under his belt, and they were decidedly not a pop star, just a musician who'd managed to eke out a career. But when I saw the number, I thought, damn, they're raking it in.
He says, then I thought about their tour bus and the driver who'd been hired to drive it, the trailer full of gear, the 3 musicians in the backing band, the guitar tech, the sound engineer that traveled with them, not to mention the venue itself staffed with bartenders, ticket takers, stage hands. All those people, I hoped, were earning a living wage. Then there was the venue owner who would expect to turn their own profit on that night, or whatever other entities were involved in the ticketing and promotion, which would take their cuts as well. Plus the booking agent who put together the tour on the artist side, whose payment would come directly out of their take to the tune of about 10%. The list goes on. It did not take long to realize that, though. The artists might be making the decent living they deserve for their work. They probably aren't rich. And he said, still, I couldn't help but feel like they could have afforded to throw us a couple more bucks.
Oh, he goes on to say that the scene came to mind again after the National Independent Talent Organization, that's NITO, a trade group representing indie talent representatives like managers and agents. They published an infographic, and it detailed the breakdown of payouts for an average $100 concert ticket based on expense sheets shared with them by a host of working musicians. Of that $100, the artist is likely to take home about $8.
Ay, ay, ay. So that total ticket price includes roughly $22 in fees, which are split between the venue, the promoter that put the show together, like Live Nation, if that's hosted at one of the many venues they own, and the company that handled the ticketing, which Ticketmaster, if it's one of those Live Nation rooms, and at plenty other venues as well. Roughly $30 goes to cover the venue's costs, which include the staff. Another $8 goes to whoever produced the show, which could be the venue or an outside promoter or both. And then there are the costs incurred by the artists themselves, the bus or van, the touring staff, the hotel rooms, the gas. You can take a look at the full breakdown from NITO in the Your Morning Coffee newsletter, and that slideshow is fascinating.
Well, let's walk through that slideshow. This is their infographic from NITO. Again, that's National Independent Talent Organization. And the first slide, it just says how much of your $100 goes to the artist. And they say that there's a lot in the news about concert ticket prices. Fans want to know how much their money actually goes to the artist, how much of it. NITO collected data from members to answer that question. We broke down a $100 concert ticket for a sold-out show in 2024.
So let's talk about fees. If the fan paid $100, there were approximately $22 in fees. Fees have risen in the past 10 years, up to 28% of the face value on a national average. Ticket fees are split between the venue, the promoter, and the ticketing company. Artists have no control and do not profit from ticket fees.
Right, we've been telling that for a while. Let's get into show costs. The next slide. Approximately $30 of your ticket goes to the venue expenses associated with producing the show. This would include costs like stagehands, security, bartenders, box office, sound and lights, rent, catering, etc. This generally is between 35-40% of the show gross or total value of face value tickets sold.
Right. Then there's promoter profit. After show costs, the remaining $48 of your ticket is split between the artist and whomever produced the show. This could be the venue itself or an outside promoter. Typically, this is an 85 and 15 split in favor of the artist. Roughly $8 is going to the producer of the show, along with some of the fees from earlier.
And the next slide is artist expenses. At this point, approximately $40 of your ticket is going back to the artist. However, this is not profit. The artist now has to cover all the expenses of touring and being on the road: travel, transportation, production, gear, hotels, crew, musician salaries, per diems, commissions, visas, immigration costs, and it goes on and on. We spoke to several business managers, and expenses can account for 75 to 85% of all the money being made on the road.
Right. So how about the artist profit? On average, about $8.16 of your $100 ticket is actual profit. This number can vary significantly based on costs of a tour and the size of the venue. NITO wants to educate all music fans and concert goers about how much or how little of their money actually makes it into the hands of the artist. This kind of knowledge can help us all learn what steps we can take to build a healthier music ecosystem for all.
Yeah, it was a super cool infographic. Yeah, and there was a response from the EVP of music from Ticketmaster. He used to work at Warner Brothers. And the quote was, really terrific breakdown. Great illustration of the value chain and how money flows. He says, it took me years of actually working in the business to fully grasp. Well done.
Yeah, absolutely. But also a great lesson in the power of the infographic to shape a story. One conclusion you could and are supposed to draw from this is that the artists make the least of the $100, that's 8% of any of the players in the chain. But the other buckets are all gross revenue, though the promoter's take here is named profit, a sly use of industry jargon to do an apples-oranges comparison, where the artist profit is presented net. Easy to miss that the artists take 40% of gross revenue in this model. Venues, ticket agents, promoters, and vendors all have overheard they need to pay. Oops, sorry. Let me start that. 40, 35. Thank you for doing that. Easy to miss that the artist takes 40% of gross revenues in this model. Venues, ticketing agents, promoters, and vendors all have overhead they need to pay before they earn a profit. Concert promotion is notoriously a low single-digit margin business.
Yeah, this is super well done. He goes on to say that the modern live entertainment ecosystem is the greatest commercial engine for artists in the music industry. Amen. Artists getting paid more to create is in everyone's interest, but a healthy ecosystem is also critical. And when it comes to tickets, Mike, you and I talk about ticketing and some of the misconceptions and what fees the artists participate in and which ones they don't. And it's not simple. It's actually very, very complex. And, as a friend of mine once sang, there's 3 sides to every story: yours, mine, and the truth. And I love pieces like this where you can sort of see that breakdown of that revenue and how the sausage is made a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. But clearly, when you look at the amount of artists that are well into their 60s, 70s, and sometimes 80s, it is still worthwhile to be out on the road. The money is there.
Yeah.
And that's really where almost the only money is, given things in streaming and everything like that.
That's right.
So
touring and merch.
For sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. Touring and merch. All right. Well, as we wrap up the show, we want to say if you enjoy the show, please just tell one friend. We would certainly appreciate it. Big thanks to the MLC, Soundtrack, Bandzoogle, Music.ai, Hypebot, and Bands in Town, our wonderful band of sponsors. We certainly appreciate their participation. And on behalf, I should say, of my good friend, Jay Gilbert, I am Mike Etchart, and we say thanks for listening, and we will be back next week on the Your Morning Coffee Podcast.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.